Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Achieve Your Dream Summit. I'm sure you've seen some of the videos. If you have not, we've got a dandy for you today. This is a lady named Brenda, and she's got a lot to say, and she says it well. Again, her name is Brenda Adelmen. She's an award-winning actor, recipient of the Hero of Forgiveness Award. She's been interviewed on over 200 media outlets, including NPR, Fox, and CBS, and Reinvention Radio. She's performed her critically acclaimed one-woman show about her life on stages for over 12,000 people worldwide. Her book is entitled, are you ready for this? My Father Killed My Mother and Married My Aunt, Forgiving the Unforgivable. Okay, you can put your jaw back up now. And I'll finish telling you about her. Her clients have shared their stories across the US, Europe, Canada, and of course, virtually. Without further ado, Miss Brenda Adelmen, I'll give it over to you with this question. What were you born to do?
I really feel like I was born to tell my story, heal myself, and help other people while I was doing it. And I'm right there right now. I had this moment that was really interesting when I started telling my story on stage. You know, I was afraid to tell this big story, my father killing my mother and marrying her sister. I was so ashamed years ago. But then I had this moment on stage when I was in my acting class, not thinking it would be a one-person show, but just wanting to be telling my story and not hiding anymore, where I remembered that my mom took me to plays from the time I was 3 years old, and that she read Shakespeare to me also as a bedtime story. And my show was called My Brooklyn Hamlet. And it's like it gave me a sense of comfort knowing that someone in history lived through something like I did, even if it was written. Hamlet, his father is killed by his uncle, and then his uncle marries his mother. During the time that I was feeling so alone, my father killing my mother and marrying my aunt, I knew that I wasn't alone, and that made all the difference for me. And then knowing I knew how to act, and here I was on stage being able to jump into the different characters and express my feelings. I had this moment. It was like this knowing that everything happened for a reason. Not knowing I would then go on to be telling my story on stages all over the world, but it feels like everything prepared me for that.
My goodness. And the next question I'd like to ask is, what did you do to get there? I think you pretty much answered that. Do you think so?
Well, the thing I didn't say is that, when I did start telling my story, and then a director wanted to work with me, a producer wanted to produce, I turned my short piece into a full-length show, I would perform and then I'd be pretty miserable. People would laugh, people would cry, I know how to act, and then I'd be really miserable. And so I then went back to school, got a master's in spiritual psychology. And it was in that program I learned about forgiveness, self-forgiveness, setting healthy boundaries. So it was the combination of writing my story, practicing forgiveness, and then sharing my story on stage that really led me to where I am.
Amazing combination, but one that works. I know I've dealt with a lot of clients, a lot of students where forgiveness is huge. In fact,
it was huge for me.
Okay. Well, okay, then tell us a little bit more about your business and how the question is, how does your business fit into your dream, fit into what you were born to do? Now you're smiling big on that one. Okay.
I am, because I'm definitely more of a creative. Like, I've really had to learn how to put my right and left brain together and learn how to make it into a business, because I was an actress when my mom was killed. I was an actress. I wanted to perform. I would have performed for free anywhere. And one of the things I teach my clients is how you can make money sooner, because I didn't realize that back then. It wasn't, of course I want to express myself, but if I get paid to express myself, I can keep expressing myself more. I don't have to do a side job. And so the business kind of evolved on its own. So I started getting paid for my show, and then I would do it sometimes, my 1 hour show. I would perform sometimes at spiritual communities, and this minister at a new church knew me, and he was like, you should do a workshop on forgiveness, because I do a ceremony of forgiveness in my show. He's like, you know how to do that? And I was scared, but I was like, okay. And that's how my book came about, because then I wrote my process down into a book so that I could share it in a workshop. But before that, I had started coaching, because once I forgave my father, maybe it was just in the way I was being and how I was talking, but people were coming to me and wanting to be coached. So it kind of happens without a business plan at first. But then I would have so many people taking me out to lunch to like find out how I had so much success with my show, that I turned it into my first digital course back in like 2014, 2015, so that I could reach people everywhere. And I was saying the same things over. And instead of doing like one-off coaching sessions, I then turned what I know into digital courses.
Wow. Wow. Well, and I'm sure you have clients all over the place
All over the world. Yep.
because of the subject matter. Excellent. Excellent. Okay. So will you tell us the title of the next phase of this interview and why you chose that particular title?
Tell your secrets on stage powerfully in service to your business. The reason I chose that is I was looking at how is what I teach different from other storytelling coaches, or, you know, I do teach, it's like branding your story, but what it is I took something that was a secret that I had a lot of shame around. I healed it, and then I put it on stage. And from being on so many stages in so many different communities and having talkbacks, I realized just how much everybody is going through, and they're just secretive and afraid or ashamed or guilty. And so what I've learned over the years, in this last 2 years alone, I've put over 100 people on a virtual stage helping them with their stories, is that because I teach healing from your story as you're crafting and sharing it, I just saw so many breakthroughs. And I'm not afraid to hold for someone to go through the hard stuff so that there can be peace on the other side, because of the depth of despair I was in. Like, I know what's on the other side. I know how scary it is, but I have the techniques from my master's program to teach about, you know, how to heal, how to set boundaries so that you can forgive, you know? So that's what it's about. And I've noticed that when I've produced these showcases, first in person and then virtually, the audience, when someone shares something that was a secret, but in a way that they feel safe, the audience is so captivated and moved. And that's where we really change lives, because people are so, you know, filled with shame and fear and guilt. And when they see somebody else has gone through something like they have, even if it's a different circumstance, it's so healing.
You're educating people on something that could destroy them. And
yeah, and people get sick, you know, because they hold on to their anger, or they don't have intimacy because they're afraid to be seen. Like, it's all stuff that I had to deal with, right? Not wanting people to see me because I felt so ugly inside because of how much hatred I had that I was then covering up. I mean, there's so many layers to it, you know?
Yeah. Well, just a little aside here, for many, many years, because I've been doing this for over 35 years, that when people would have the guts to come talk to me and they were stoved up with arthritis or rheumatism or migraine headaches or whatever, my first question was, who you mad at?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you know, they're often mad at themselves. Like, so that's where the self-forgiveness comes in.
Well, because a lot of what I did was based out of a mega church. It was they were not only mad at other people, they were mad at themselves. But when we got down to the question, are you mad at God? Whoa.
Yeah.
That opened up a can of worms.
Oh yeah.
A lot of times. So
yeah, that's why my book, I have my 3-step forgiveness process. I do have another course that's on forgiveness, that it's a 4-part, you know, forgiving yourself, forgiving your father, forgiving your mother, and forgiving God.
Well, I really need to check out this course then. It sounds like we're on the same page.
Yeah. It feels like it was channeled 30 days of different techniques and things from my 20 years of studying this and healing myself.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, tell us more. About
what?
Which one? Okay. Well, I know you've We've been just ripping through here. I want to hear more about your free gift. What does our audience, besides hearing your story? I know that you've got something.
I got goodies for everybody. I
boy.
do. I have goodies for everyone. Let me pull it up here so I can just read from the page. Okay. Tell your story, heal your life, create more wealth. That is my 3-part video training series. Very powerful videos. The first one is the 7 ways to share your story to showcase your talents, make an impact, and build an audience. The second video in that is the top rookie mistakes to avoid that will save you time and money. God knows I made plenty of them, but I don't anymore. And video 3 is the top 5 tools to get out of your own way and finally shift into flow and attraction energy.
And this is a course.
It is a 3-part video training series that when your viewers sign up, they will get it delivered to their inbox.
Excellent. Oh my goodness. Any more that you're
Yes, and
yes, I love it. I love it.
I have it. If I didn't actually close it out, then I could tell you it. Let's see. Let me see if this pulls up. Yes. Awesome. Okay. So when people are VIP, I have a couple of gifts for them. So I have a program called Getting Naked on Stage, how revealing your story can make you richer. It's normally sells for $97, and it's a 2-webinar on-demand training. And it is the first webinar. I did it live at first. It's the first one is about healing your heart. So it's about finding your vulnerable, passionate, and powerful story. I give my technique for how to find your story that you're going to lead with, how to choose which story will connect with your audience, how to craft an engaging story, and how to be captivating as a presenter. And then webinar 2 is about sacred sharing your story in a conscious, confident, and creative manner. So learn all the different ways that you can make your mark in the world while expressing yourself and building your expert status without feeling confused, overwhelmed, or stuck.
That's a lot of stuff there.
There's more, but I'm not going to go because when they become a VIP, that's their gift and they'll get that.
Okay.
And then
it's a $97 course. So what are you charging our VIP?
Oh, that one's free.
It's free?
That one is free. And then I do have
You
another.
hear that?
Yeah, I have another offer that, we just talked about briefly that I'm willing to do as well.
Oh boy.
Because this is my in-depth training. It's one of my digital courses called Your Story Made Simple. And it's all about finding your story, healing from your story. This has a module just on healing from your story so that you know how many emotions to share or not share, so that you don't repel your audience, so that you feel good when you're sharing. Module 1 is about finding that story in depth, and that's my method that works every single time. Module 3 is about crafting your story. So you find your story, but how do you craft it like a pro? I take about 10 different techniques from fiction writing, and I give that to you. And then the last module is on sharing your story, the different formats. How do you do it when you're, sharing your story at a networking event versus, on network television versus a podcast? And that is normally $497. But for your VIPs, I will give that for 50% off. So that'll be only $247.
Whoa. That's amazingly generous. Okay, did you hear that, everybody? The lady in red is giving stuff away. Okay, so you got to get up, upgrade to VIP. And you get all this stuff.
Pretty amazing. Yeah,
that is. Well, I'll tell you what, we've said an awful lot in basically about 15 minutes, and I want to give you a bunch more time. So what can you talk about? I just love to listen to the lady in red here. So tell us more. What things that you think our audience, they're already drooling, that, because if they want to be able to tell their story, they want to be able to tell it right, and you're giving them all the tools to be able to make it work. And I like when you said it works every time. Okay, you got that, guys? It works every time. All right. Tell us more. It does.
Whatever
you want to talk about.
I wish people were here to ask me questions so that I could help them specifically. Obviously, I'm also on, Facebook, um, and I have a group in there. What I would say is, let me talk about maybe the biggest mistakes people make.
Okay. Ooh, that's good.
So a lot of times when people are telling their story, they learn some kind of formula. And the emotional stuff is so important, because if you haven't handled your emotional stuff, then you're gonna have, like, I'm telling, how there's tell your vulnerable story, tell your vulnerable story. You might tell it, and then you'll retreat for a year or two because you're like, uh-oh, I feel too exposed. That's why it's so important to do the healing while you're sharing your story. But then there are other people who they're telling their story, but because they haven't healed it, they're like, their energy is pulled back at the same time that they're sharing it. And so you're wanting to get clients, and you're not going to get clients like that, because you have one foot forward, one foot back. It's like everything in life, you have to be aligned. So I'm never saying share your secrets that you're not ready to share. I'm never saying that. However, I am encouraging you to follow your muse. If this story is up, it's either up for healing, or it's up for healing, and so that you can share it, stand out in your business, and help people along the way. Another thing, sometimes when people are sharing their own story, this has to do with crafting, is they have a lot in their mind. And again, I made all these mistakes, and unfortunately I did it publicly for reviews and stuff like that. So I teach this so that when, your audience as experts are out there, you don't get a second first impression in your business. We have saturated markets in what we all do, but you can stand out if you are so in alignment and you know how to share your story. You're going to stand out from someone else who's doing the same thing. But what was I saying about craft? I know I was talking about crafting your story.
Mistakes that people make.
Mistakes that people make. Well, I'll get it. They have it in their mind, all the details and everything that happens, but because it's so clear in their minds, they don't articulate it. The easiest way I can say this is, like, if I say, oh, that cat is so beautiful. Oh my God, I remember it. I just loved her so much. You have no idea what that cat looks like, because you're bringing your own life history into it. So I might be thinking about a Siamese cat. You might be thinking about a tabby. And as a storyteller, you want to be really clear, because it will make the story richer. But it happens more often when, like, I had a client who was talking to me about her household growing up, and she was saying how, it was really harsh, but her family was in love. So that's a generality. But in her mind, she had her whole story about, domestic violence in her house, this and that, but she wasn't sharing it with people. So if I just say something like it was harsh, all these questions I have is, well, how were they in love if it was harsh? And what does that mean? You don't want to take people out of what you're trying to share, especially if your goal is to sell something or get a client. You want to help them step by step to go on the journey with you, instead of having it in your head. I hope that makes sense.
It does. It does. Very good. Okay. Other things people need to know from Miss Brenda.
Oh my, so much to know. Maybe I should talk about my forgiveness process. That's pretty exciting. I think
Whatever you want to do.
Because if you don't heal this inner stuff, and this is really what sets me apart with my storytelling, if you don't heal it, you're not going to even realize that you're not showing all of yourself, because maybe you're afraid you're going to be hurt. You're not collaborating with that person who might be a good collaborator because they remind you of someone, or you're going to create conflict instead of knowing how to communicate in a centered, powerful way. So let me just share briefly my the steps in my forgiveness process, because this was the first step, is so important. The reason why I stayed so depressed for so long and really immovable is because I hated my father so much for taking my mom, taking her life. And I loved him so much. And I was trying to jump to forgiveness because I couldn't get my mom back, but I was seething with anger inside. But there are two types of people usually: people who lash out, for people who lash in, what I say. So for lashing in, it would be, instead of hurting other people and being aggressive, it shows up in addictions, isolation, right? Things like that. And if you don't heal that anger that's underneath, it's gonna come out to someone probably closest to you who doesn't deserve it. So for me, I spent so many years saying, well, that's okay. I'm forgiving him, even though, you know, I would talk to him, I would not talk to him. And so in step one of my process, it's actually moving out of denial and into acceptance of what is. So that would be accepting what happened and accepting your feelings about it. And in that, one of the exercises in that part is actually being a victim, because so many people are so afraid of being a victim, they end up being a victim or victimizing themselves. And so in that process, there's several different processes, but there's one which is like free form writing, where you're just like writing out your emotions. I freaking hate you, blah, blah, blah. You know, like the pen should be going through the page. Because, and a lot of women are like this, some men, but women, you know, we want to be nice. We're taught not to express that anger. And that is the thing that I would say kept me in an addiction with food and exercise. So I would overeat and then over exercise. And then I'd beat myself up about gaining weight, or I'd get hurt, have an injury from over exercising. And I wasn't thinking about what I really needed to think about, which was I'm freaking angry at my father. And so in this step one, it is really honestly giving a voice to your emotions, but how it's different from journal writing is you are never reading it over. It is about using this as a nurturing way for you to get out your emotions. And at the end, give yourself, you know, give thanks for being able to take this time with yourself. Go to therapist if you have to. I'm a coach, but, and there's a little more to the process. But at the end, you absolutely throw out that paper, put a Sharpie through it, light it on fire, you know, in a healthy, you know, safe way, and you get rid of it. And that's how you can get rid of emotions. And then I'll just say, step two, it's never about indulging. And that exercise goes anywhere from 15 minutes to 2 hours, again, because it's not about indulging, and you do it for at least 15 minutes. So it's not like surface level stuff. And there are a few more nuances to that, but that's the most important. 15 minutes to 2 hours. You close it at that time. If you need to write more, there's more there. You pick it up the next day. When I was in my master's program, they would have us do it for 30 days straight. And if we missed a day, we had to start another 30 days. So you really process it. And then when you have moved through that, then you move to giving up your need to be right, right? You're all righteous in the first one, and then you're giving up your need to be right. And then step three is, of course, finding the lessons or the resilience. And in that step, I have exercises in those steps too. And that step is a lot, you know, you can like volunteer, see that other people are doing worse and doing better, like getting out of yourself.
My goodness, very comprehensive.
Very comprehensive. Everything is comprehensive. I kind of feel like life is this puzzle. And if I could get all the pieces, then I have these tools. Like I have these tools to use whenever I need them, you know? And as a coach, I feel so blessed to be able to work with people and be like, okay, that is actually what's really going on there. So what tool can I choose, you know?
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that you're taking it from one-to-one, one-on-one coaching to courses where literally thousands of people can be taught. It's all about knowledge. Once they have the knowledge, when you teach them, hey, you're not weird. In fact, this is what people go through.
Actually, weird is encouraged.
It is? Okay. All right. Okay. You're weird. I can say that to myself. You're weird. Yes, I can.
But yeah, I mean, you're saying that people think they're weird because they're going through all this stuff. And what I'm saying is no, absolutely not. I have heard just what people go through. I feel like I'm honored because of how vocal I am with the devastation that I lived through and how I've gotten to the other side, that I'm in this like club where I get to hear what people have gone through. And you must know that from what you've done as well. Like you hear this stuff and you're like, we feel so honored that we're able, like people feel safe to be able to say something, right? Because the last thing people want is to be going through something and then be closed down. And that's one of the storytelling things too. Like I teach my storytellers, you, even though you have to be really careful when you're working on your story and your secrets, who you're telling at first, because sometimes you might share with like a sister, let's say, who you think, oh, well, we've lived through the same thing, so they'll be supportive. But they see that in the process of telling your story, there is a breakdown before the breakthrough, and it's a breakdown only in that, you know, you've been squashing something down, and now there's emotion that comes out, and emotion is where the healing takes place. But then the people we love are sometimes like wanting to shut that down because they're uncomfortable with their emotions. And that's the worst thing for you as a writer. You need to be sharing it with someone who understands the process of storytelling and why it's important, you know?
Okay. And in many cases, that would be you.
In many cases, it would be me. What I'll say is I am so grateful that I have my digital courses because I can reach more people, but I do love it when I can do a group coaching or someone hires me for coaching separately, because it's like getting to the head of the class quicker. You know, it took me a long time to develop my material.
Well, I do the same thing with my course. I offer the one-to-one for 8 weeks, and then we really get down and dirty, down and deep. So, all righty. Well, you've already told us about your incredible gifts. That is just wonderful. So I have one more question. This one was optional. I don't know if I asked you about this one, but
sure.
When it comes to living your best life, what advice do you have for our viewers, for our audience? Your best life.
Be present.
Mm.
Notice if you're living in the past or living in the future. Really cultivate this moment, who you're with. The power is in the present moment. And then, of course, what I have in my show at the end is Shakespeare's quote from Hamlet, "This above all else, to thine own self be true." Yeah. So I would say that is something I'd leave people with. My
mother brought me up on that, on that quote.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah, she was pretty cool. Little tiny thing. I'm 6'4". My mother was like 5'2".
Oh my gosh. Wow.
It's pretty crazy.
Wow.
All right. Well, unless there's something else you want to share,
I think that's
our
pretty
viewers
cool.
have got a heart full, a head full, an ear full of just really, really stuff that makes sense, and practical things that they can dig into. They can dig into because of your courses. Because of the things that you're giving away or giving away for half price. Oh my gosh, they can dig into who they are, why they're the way they are, and come out on the other side free.
Yep, that's exactly what it's about. And for the business owners to really use their story to stand out and make a difference. You don't know who needs to hear your story, and then of course connect it to your business.
Okay, so for business owners telling their story, you teach the business owners, besides teaching your clients who are going through whatever. You teach the business owners. Anything else you want to throw in about what you do with business owners?
Because my clients are business owners. Like I mostly work with solopreneurs, small business owners, coaches, healers. A lot of people who thought they'd be behind the scenes and wouldn't be telling their story. But I also work with award-winning speakers that want to be more creative in what they're sharing or heal deeper. So I work with two. It's basically experts, right? Are my ideal clients. But it's with businesses, let's say it's a brick and mortar business too. It's about finding the story that is going to make you memorable. And every single time, but this is one-on-one work, when I work with someone and they say, yeah, I just don't understand how that's relevant, I find it. I find the relevancy and how that story, that very personal story, relates to their business, because we're evolving humans. We're usually pulled towards something because of who we are, because of our values. So it's about finding that match, even when something seemingly is like has nothing to do with your business, how it does. Yeah.
And finding value in what someone has to share. Because I know that I've worked with so many people who say, well, people don't want to know that. They don't even know that. I'm just me. I'm a nobody, or I've got this big company and I don't do I need to tell that story? And then you and
Yeah.
I say, yes, you do.
Well, here's the thing. In the past, maybe they didn't have to, but if you look at, I mean, there are business stories, right? Big businesses
Yes.
might have a business story, and you see a lot of commercial campaigns where they're sharing a feeling that isn't so personal. But if you're the face of your business, and that's who I work with, if you're the face of your business, you want to tell your story because it will make you stand out. It's just an oversaturated market. So not only that, we're in such a place of being so disconnected, and stories make you connect, right? I've hired people because I remember them because of their story, not because of what they've done or what they do. I'm like, okay, I could hire this many people to do my website, but that person, there was something about their story that really resonated for me, based on my values.
Okay. All right. So this just off the cuff here, steps for somebody is the face, male or female, he or she is the face of what they do. What steps do they need to take? How do they start? Is that a one-to-one with you? Is that buying a course or first before talking to you? What are the steps that people need to do if they're serious about their story?
Yeah, I mean, this program, Your Story Made Simple, is the program that would have them find their story that they're going to be sharing in their marketing. I have a separate program that is about telling your story on stage because it's comprehensive and it's different. Me telling my story, and if I'm being interviewed, they're going to tell the story a different way in a publication than I'm being asked to be on network news, which is like a 3 to 6 minute interview. Whereas if I'm on a podcast, it could be an hour that I'm talking. Sure. Or different ways to tell our stories. If I'm in a networking event or if I'm doing a live video, it's different. So there's the combination. I do have VIP packages, and I have people that study with me with all the programs because I have a video program as well, so that they're learning how to be themselves, but the best of themselves on video, so that they know how to show up for interviews, so that they get the audience to do what they want, whether it's they want the audience to have a heart opening, they want them to sign up for an opt-in, they want them to purchase their program, so it's, and then how do you pitch? So I do different programs. I have some exciting things coming up, but I do have, I have a VIP package where people work with me for 3 to 6 months. And then I teach them, depending on if they want to do stage. Right now, there's so much opportunity with like this hybrid stage. I teach that, how do you do conferences that are virtual? Some people don't want to do in-person conferences, but now there is that element, because speaking on stage, even on a conference, I had a client who one of my private clients just did that. She had like 3 minutes on someone else's stage. It was virtual. She came to me so that I could help block her. I could help her punch it up in certain places. That's going to be different though, than if it's on stage. I'm going to direct it differently,
Well, it sounds like we who have businesses, we who have programs can learn an awfully lot in a relatively short period of time, and take the course, the stuff that you're
giving away. So reach out, do that, and then reach out to me. We can always, I like to get on a call with my clients who are investing for a longer amount of time and higher amounts of money, so that we can see if it's the right thing. I want people to be in the same program. On the VIP level, I'm working a lot with people's material. I'm giving them notes, but I'm also giving them one or more of my programs, so that in between us working together, that's how I get such quick results. They're reading, and they're implementing, and they're doing the exercises and stuff like that.
Yes. Well, it couldn't be boring. It couldn't be. It couldn't be stale. In fact, I would venture to guess that even the stodgiest CEOs, male or female, could be brought to life.
Oh yeah, I mean, I haven't worked with that market, but I would love to, because they have a chance to really change the world in addition to growing their income. Like how many. All right, here's an example, because I have worked with a couple of, real estate brokers, especially when COVID started, or lawyers. because they were doing everything in person, and then their business literally would have gone out if they didn't get on video, and they, they didn't know how to bring their personality to video. And, it's
Well,
like,
they didn't have a personality. Yeah, yeah.
well, maybe in person they did, but they had that mistake that you don't have your personality in your business, but like one client is coming to mind. I helped him with the composition, with the background, the backdrop, with how to communicate so that you're talking to your audience, but also like he was a musician. So we set it up where his guitar was in the back too. You know what I'm saying? It's like bring some personality so that if someone is looking for, a real estate broker or a realtor or something, and they're like, oh, that's cool. That person is is a musician. Like, like connect on a level where you're a person, people have something to remember you by, like my red curtains, know.
Uh-huh.
But it's me that fits with my personality. I'm an actress, so I have curtains, I have a microphone. With him, he had a beautiful room that was brown, very classy, and then he had the guitar there. It was beautiful. It's about, that's why I love working with people one-on-one, because then I can really help tailor it to the person,
well,
their businesses.
And when you find those people and they're not musicians, you send them to me, because my son and I write theme songs for business. Wait till you hear mine for Strategy for Destiny. It's going to be up and running here pretty soon.
Cool.
People are going to get a big grin out of it.
That's great to know.
Cool. They'll remember. Well, do you have any closing remarks? I
do not. I feel full.
So much in a relatively short period of time here, lady. So
I'm in the New York Minute.
Yes, yeah. Well, I couldn't be more thrilled with this interview. So I think we're going to let you go, and we'll just smile at the people. And remember, you can upgrade for practically nothing and get all of this lady's stuff. It's so exciting. I mean, I'm going to get all of it, and I'm going to study it.
I'm pretty excited about that.
All righty. Well, without further ado, bye-bye, Miss Brenda.